It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. We're back live on the Big Mountain.
Live, Steve.
Live.
You scared me.
Woo.
Hey, welcome to the Big Mountain. JY, Steve, I see we've got some people in the chat already. A little bit late, but that's how we roll in the Big Mountain. We don't like to be early. We like to be fashionably late.
Yeah, when you're low budget, sometimes you have some technical difficulties.
That never happens. So as our viewers know, we like to focus on the Big Ten and the Mountain West. I know for me, Steve, I am going to be talking Utah State, and I'm going to be talking Colorado State this evening for the Mountain West. And what are you thinking for the Big Ten? What are we doing?
Yeah, I'm going to roll into a couple. We got a couple real big Big Ten spring games coming up this weekend. Okay. Ohio State and Penn State. So we'll be talking about that, and I'm happy to see we got Big Mama 69.
Oh, yeah.
We got Squeezed Money, and that college football guy, I got to say, I love your show. I'm a subscriber now. Watch it every time that video pops up.
I wait for it.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yep.
I'm waiting for it. But anyway, you want to get started on the Big Ten?
Yeah, let's roll.
Let's start into the Big Ten. Remember, throw some comments down there. We'll get to them in between some of our planned talking points here this evening. I don't have anything for the pack tonight. We just did a pack episode Tuesday that it dropped, or yesterday. Yesterday. I thought maybe we'd have something on the CW agreement. Still waiting. We'll get to it eventually. So, let's go into the Big Ten, Steve. What are we doing?
So we got two Big Ten spring games this Saturday, the 13th, Ohio State and Penn State. Before I get into those too deep, I do just want to say, Big Ten team, Iowa, their women's basketball team made it to the national championship game. Great game throughout. I mean, South Carolina, they were a little bit better. I mean, they're just better all around. To me, it was the best team versus probably, the team that had the best player in the country, and the best team won out, but nothing to be disappointed with if you're an Iowa fan. Just a fantastic game. I loved the coaches, Iowa coaches' comments, both coaches. I loved their comments after the game. And, the Iowa coach said, you know what, we're going to hold our heads up high. 2 years in a row, we're the runner-up. That means we're one of the top two teams in the country. I'm going to tell my players, hold your heads up high. You were the national runner-up 2 years in a row. So anyways, just want to congratulate Iowa. And the numbers are out, the men's game and the women's game. Yeah. The women's game, I think it was 14 million people watched. Okay. And the men's game only 12 minutes. It was the first time in history that the women's final actually beat the men's final. So again, congratulations to Iowa. Great run in the tournament. I enjoyed watching it quite a bit. I'm more of a basketball guy. JY, not so much.
Not so much. Although I did like covering the Mountain West basketball. Yes. That was fun.
That was.
What about Purdue? Aren't you going to give them a little shout out?
Yeah, Purdue.
You don't want to.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, okay, Purdue again. Similar story. The team with the best overall player, Zach Edey, the back-to-back most outstanding player of the year. They came up a little bit short against UConn. Who it was just the best team in the country yet again 2 years in a row. UConn's the first team in 17 years, I believe, to win back-to-back national championships.
Yeah.
So another real good game. Purdue, congratulations to Purdue as well, and Zach Edey. So
you didn't have to.
No, thanks for.
I will say I'm not a big basketball guy. Yeah. I struggled through part of the women's game. I texted you. It doesn't do much for me. I apologize, but I will say that UConn team is amazingly good.
Oh, yes. They're
amazingly
really good. And on the women's side, the South Carolina team.
Yeah, they're really good, too. Good. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we've got a guy here from D.C., Todd Kirby. That's a new name. I don't remember him, but go Caps. I'm assuming he's a Caps fan. If you're from D.C., maybe. Go Caps. Let us know if you're a Caps fan.
Rock the red.
Rock the red. That's right. And also, Aloha Nate, I just got to say this. He always has a very witty comment to get us going. I giggle. Pac-12 still looking for a TV deal. That went so well last year.
Yes. Yeah. It went well for him.
Fantastic. Anyway, let's get into it, Steve.
So let's roll right in. Ohio State at noon on Saturday. Their spring game in Ohio Stadium. Going to be covered on Fox, on the big network Fox. Not Big Ten Network, not FS1, Fox. They're going to have Urban Meyer on the broadcast. They're going to have Joel Klatt there. Just the basically kind of the A team there, plus some additions to which is huge. I mean, I don't remember a spring game ever being on, a major network like that with Ohio State being on Fox. I think next week Michigan's also going to be on Fox. So, it just shows you college football, how big, how powerful it is right now. So that's huge for Ohio State and the Big Ten, just for college football in general. So here's some things I'm looking at in this game, okay?
All right.
And we had already talked about Ohio State coming into spring ball,
Right.
what we want to see, what the answer is. So in this game, I'm looking at Will Howard, quarterback transferred in from Kansas State. Does he grab the reins and take this job in the spring game?
Yep.
I think he's set up for it. He's gone through basically as the de facto starter. But, if he struggles, Ryan Day and Ohio State are not messing around. If he struggles, that opens the door for one of the younger quarterbacks. Who are those? Devin Brown was the backup last year.
Yeah.
He's there. Julian Sand and Air Noland are the big 4- and 5-star freshmen that are coming in. A lot of people are really excited about them. For me, I feel pretty confident that Will Howard is going to grab the job.
Yeah.
They want him to win the job. This is what they brought him in for. They're going to give him every opportunity. And I would say for Devin Brown, so Devin Brown lost out last year to the starter. If he loses out again this year, I could see him maybe moving on after spring ball. This is huge for him, especially with Julian Sang and Aaron Nolan coming up behind him.
Yeah.
So another big thing is their wide receiver room. They're absolutely loaded every year.
Yeah.
They got some guys coming back. I just want in a spring game where they're kind of running offense A and B.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see this wide receiver room, and especially Will Howard with these receivers. He's a good quarterback, good with his arms and good with his feet.
Yep.
But can this receiver core make him look like a great quarterback?
Yeah.
And really in that loaded wide receiver room, so Ohio State brought in Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 overall player, not the number 1 overall wide receiver, the number 1 overall player in the country. Rave reviews about him out of spring ball so far. Tons and tons of hype, really talented. There's some speculation like he could break into that starting lineup and maybe even be their number 1 wide receiver target, which is amazing considering the future NFL guys that are already in that room. So I'm really excited to see him, Jeremiah Smith. Okay. You have anything about Ohio State? Any questions?
I know the quarterback thing is when we talked about that a few weeks ago, I'm really anxious to see this quarterback battle play out. I agree. I think anybody's early inclinations are that Howard's going to be the guy, but I don't. Does he have a long leash? What's he going to be given to start the season? And again, in terms of that leash, because they've got some stud young quarterbacks in that quarterback room. So yeah, I agree with you on the quarterback situation.
And I think honestly, if you're Ryan Day and you're an Ohio State fan, you want there to be no doubt at the end of this game that Will Howard is your guy and he has the job. Because if there is doubt, that's kind of a disaster for Ohio State, even with these young guys coming back.
Good point.
Or coming behind them. So,
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Penn State. Okay. So, we already talked about this team as well as one of our spring preview games, or spring preview episodes. But I really want to talk about them, just this game in particular, and what I want to see out of this game. This is our first chance to see the new offense. Is it really that different, than the previous offense? How many wrinkles are they going to throw in a spring game? And can they just kind of, the wide receiver core last year was not impressive. And the big hope is Andy Koldenicki will be able to come in and basically put them in space, test the defense, and create opportunities for them, because they don't really have anybody who's that number 1 guy that's just going to go and beat somebody down the field. So what's this offense look like? And does it create time and space for the receivers, for the playmakers?
Well, do you think you're going to see much change in 7 practices? Or how many practices? Well, is this the end game, or is
this
is
their final for both
All
teams?
right, so they've had 14, 15,
yes.
whatever practices.
I hope so, honestly. As I really hope so. I mean, it's installing a brand new system. For
the amount of movement you're expecting to see come fall, you better see movement now, is basically what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
And so a big part of that is the quarterbacks, okay? So for a long time, Penn State was known as a team that ran their quarterback. They had Trace McSorley, darn near ran him into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He basically darn near ran himself into the ground.
Yes.
And so they were known for running their quarterback. So you bring in Mike Yursich, you bring in a 5-star pocket, kind of more of a pocket quarterback. And last year they didn't use very much quarterback movement at all. Every now and then they bring in Bo Prabula either as maybe a change of pace every now and then, or at the end of the game. He liked to run a little bit more, but it really wasn't part of the offense that we saw. Well, Andy Koldenicki likes to get his quarterback out in space to test that defense. That's all. That's what his offense is about, putting the defense in a position where they have to make a choice. They got to cover the running back. They got to account for the quarterback's legs, or they can fall back and cover the receivers. And it's all about putting them in a position to make a choice, and you can take advantage of what they didn't cover. To me, this is a great opportunity. I mean, if you're Penn State fans, they want to see Drew Aller, that young 5-star quarterback, be successful.
Yeah.
And he was fairly successful last year. But this is a great opportunity for Bo Prabula, the backup. This is the kind of thing that he thrives on. He doesn't have that 5-star arm, that NFL arm to throw it, 80 yards down the field, or even that 35 to 40 yard out. Like Drew Aller has, but the guy can move. He can think fast on his feet, and he can be a weapon, a dual strike weapon. So I'm interested to see how he looks in this offense versus Aller.
That was going to be I wrote down a question for you, and that is my question.
Yeah.
Do you think, given the change of what they want to be doing here on offense, do you think there could become somewhat of a quarterback, I don't say controversy, but battle, more so than people maybe would think there would be? Again, Drew is the go-to. He's just the given. They know, no. But given what they want to run, maybe, does Bo maybe provide more of what they're looking for even maybe bringing him in even more than what they did? But again, I'm going to go to the whole way to say, could he become more of a starter here in this offense?
I think, first of all, I think they're going to use Bo more. They used him last year. I think they're going to have packages for him. We'll see how he does in a spring game, how they use him. But I do think they're going to use him more. I think 100%, unless an injury happens, Drew Aller is going to be the starter day one. Now, if you start to get down into the season, and it's not working out, I could definitely see last year Drew Aller was the starter. They were going to stick with him, and before that it was Sean Clifford.
Right.
They were going to stick with him. I think this year, Penn State wants to take that next step. They have an offensive coordinator that didn't bring in Aller. Mike Yurcich brought in Aller. So I think Aller needs to produce, and or we could definitely see a situation where Prabula could come in and be the starter at some point if Aller is not producing.
Right, and that I guess that was my question, was later in the season. I think I would be shocked if it happened game number 1.
Yeah.
But again, if Aller's struggling, could you see, and you answered my question, maybe a changing of the roles there. Okay, all right, cool.
Okay, so moving forward, the next part that I really want to see is the wide receivers, okay? Total difference with Ohio State and Penn State on wide receivers, and honestly, this is probably the area that's the biggest difference on our rosters, on the rosters. Ohio State absolutely loaded with 5-star future NFL talent. Penn State, the wide receiver position is an absolute question mark. I would love to see Keandre Lambert-Smith come and show finally that he's that number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
He's shown flashes of that and then just disappeared into nothingness. And also you have Julian Fleming come in. I don't want him to be the number 1 receiver, but he may come in just because he's a veteran. He may not have some of the speed and the skills, physical attributes that some of these other guys have, but he's a veteran. He works hard. He knows what he's doing. So I'll be interested to kind of see who's that go-to guy, who grabs the job.
Okay.
And it really, is there anybody else? The wide receiver core, I think, is the biggest question mark. And I'm interested to see how this game goes.
Okay.
Now, linebackers. Okay.
Linebacker you.
Yeah. So, they lose a couple linebackers. They lose one to the draft, one to a position change. You got Kobe King should be back in the middle. Him and Eldson, they're kind of interchangeable, but I think Kobe King is the better middle linebacker. So I expect to see him as the starter. And then, you got young guys. Rojas last year was a backup, but he came in and he really flashed. At times, he really flashed that athleticism and looked amazing. He put on a lot of good weight. And then there were other times he looked like he was lost in the sauce. So, true freshman last year. But, I want to see him. Is he more confident? Is he more comfortable? Does he come in and look like a starter right away? And then who's the third guy? Kavion Keys, I see him as a potential. He's a young guy, brought in a couple years ago. I see him as a potential starter. Does he come in and take a starting role?
Okay.
But then really, my question there is with this line. I think they're calling it the lion position. Other years they called it the star position. Basically, they take a safety and they let them either come back up and play in the box as a linebacker or fall back in. Tig Brown did that a couple years ago. And so I'm really interested to see with Allen there this year how he uses that position, and really, do we end up seeing a lot of two linebacker where they just have two linebackers and then they have the lion position and give him the flexibility, and which one of the safeties, because Penn State has a lot of good safeties. They probably got 4 starting caliber safeties, so it makes sense to put one of them in that role in this lion position and maybe go to a lot of two linebacker sets. Will we see that in the spring game? I don't know. I hope so, because I want to see what it looks like. So that's a big thing. And then the biggest question on the defense, the guy who can be that difference maker. Okay, the guy that can be a Chop Robinson from last year, or even a Micah Parsons from a few years back. Maybe not quite that level. Abdul Carter. Yeah. He's switching from linebacker, coming up and playing defensive end.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a big move for him. Then the staff originally wanted him at defensive end. He wanted to play linebacker, and he was fine at linebacker. But really, the where he flashed as a linebacker is when he would come up and rush the passer.
Yeah.
So they lose Chop Robinson. They move him up. James Franklin keeps talking about him having a big learning curve, but defensive end, especially rushing the passer, is one of those you can kind of rely on your natural ability. I mean, he's already been playing. He played 2 years as a linebacker, so he knows the defense and he knows assignments and all of that. So it's not like he's brand new.
Right.
He's going to a new position, and I just want to see how he flashes. Can he be that game changer? I mean, Chop Robinson was a game changer last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt.
Yeah.
Didn't play against Ohio State, but against Michigan, he blew up their game plan and caused them to basically have to just run the ball, because he was just destroying them on the pass rush. So can Abdul Carter be that guy? Those are the things that I'm looking for in the Penn State spring game.
So do you think, I want to get to some comments here next, and hang in there. We got Mountain West coming next. I'm talking Utah State and the Rams. I see we got a Rams fan here. So we're going to get to the Rams. But I want to ask you about the defense in Penn State. Are you expecting the same level of defensive play overall? I know you're losing bits and pieces and all that kind of stuff. And a big piece with Chop Robinson. But are you expecting the same level of defense in Happy Valley this coming fall as you had last fall?
Yes, I am. And it may sound crazy. They're replacing a bunch of their corners, but they got good guys coming in. They have, again, defense is where they're strong, and they were really deep last year. And Tom Allen, I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great defensive coordinator. They may not be as, we'll say, maybe aggressive as they were under Manny Diaz, but they have the players to put in position. Tom Allen, I have total, complete trust in him, and I think the defense will be just as strong. Maybe not force as many turnovers as they have the last couple years under Diaz.
Okay.
But maybe they'll be a little more dependable. There were times under Manny Diaz where they would be like third and 14, and they give up a 20-yard run or something like that, because those defenders were just playing aggressive. So maybe slightly less aggressive, but really just as good of a level of play.
Well, if you can get the same level of play out of them, and if you can take that step forward that we've been talking about with that offense, we'll see what happens with Penn State.
And that's the open question.
Question.
This will give us some clues.
So we did get. I heard back from Todd. He says go Noles, so Noles. So he's a Seminole fan, but he's also a Capital fan, and that earns kudos for me because I am a massive Capitals fan. This isn't a hockey podcast, but I gotta. If I can talk Caps, I'm talking Caps.
Well, I'll tell you, I lived in Virginia 2 different times. You know that. And there was a lot of overlap. Tons and tons of Seminoles and Capitals fans.
Is that right? Okay.
And Nats fans all together. Yeah.
Okay. And then we've got Squeeze Money says, any news on where the incoming 4 Big Ten schools will be broadcasting their spring games, since they are technically still a part of the Pac-12?
Yeah, so this is something we were talking about. I wanted to do the whole matrix of, when the spring games were going to be on, where you could find them.
Yeah.
There's way less information this year than other years. And I don't know if it's partly because of the new teams. When I looked up at USC and UCLA, they had no information about their spring game listed whatsoever. I think Oregon basically just had the date and time, but nothing about where or if it was going to be televised. So no, honestly, I don't have news, and it was a little weird when I was looking this year. And I guess we're just kind of in that adjustment phase. But if we do find out, we'll update everybody next Wednesday on our live episode.
Aloha Nate, who's on top of it?
Yeah.
He's our correspondent out there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
He says that the Pac-12 network will be showing the spring games for all current 12 members, which makes sense. They're currently in the Pac-12.
Gotcha.
And I know you've appreciated the Pac-12 network.
Absolutely.
So maybe you can watch some of the games on the Pac-12 network. And then we got a nice shirt. Go Rams. Okay. Dolph is a Rams fan. What else we got? Ohio State backup QBs are only there for NIL. Yeah, they got a lot of NIL there in Ohio State. That's for freaking sure. And then what do we got here? In season number 2 of this platform, do you have any plans to expand the content you will provide? Maybe go to a few games, do live reports, media credentials, and press conferences. Is he a mind reader, Steve?
I think so.
We have. That's a great question. We have already discussed trying to do some more live stuff. Steve's all about the live. Yeah. JY's a little bit cautious, but it's working out very well. We have a wonderful producer back here that just does it, and I don't know what's going on. But
PWB Productions.
PWB Productions. Yeah. But the credential thing is, yes, we've actually talked about that as well. We are, at least in our brains, trying to come up with maybe a trip to the Mountain West and seeing a game or two. And yeah, we'll see what happens there. We like the comment, and we've been thinking about that. We don't know exactly what might come of it, but we're giving it thought.
And for those of you that watched last fall, we're going to continue with our picks episodes on Wednesdays, but we want to do them live, and that's why over the summer we've been doing these practice episodes. Yeah. So I've been working on convincing JY. I hope we stick with that because I think it's fun. It's good to have that interaction. The reason we did this podcast was to do our picks, my Big Ten picks, JY's Mountain West picks, and we love interacting with the audience. So we're hoping to do on Wednesdays, do our live picks episodes, and then hopefully at least maybe this year one on location somewhere to see how it goes, and we'll take it from there.
If we pull that off, Steve, I will be shocked. But I should stop doubting us because we're at 1,600 subs and I don't know, things are fun around here. And we got Go Kraken from Squeeze Money. I know he's out there with the new team in Seattle. They're having a up and down. They kind of started rough and they gotten better. And I don't know, follow Western Conference a whole heck of a lot. But I love their jerseys and I love the name.
Love the name. I'm going to take us back in the time machine about 10 years or so when JY's good friend Steve said, I think the next 2 expansion cities are going to be Seattle and Las Vegas. And JY said, what? You're nuts. It's never going to happen. And so now we got, Vegas has won a Stanley Cup so far, which I know you were a little salty on how they set up Vegas for that. The Kraken didn't get quite maybe the nice setup that Vegas did.
They went at it differently.
Yeah.
The Kraken went at it differently. They were built we're getting into hockey. So
yes, I know. Vegas was built to win right away.
Vegas was built to win right away. Bring a contender, which they went to the Cup Finals against the Capitals and lost.
Yes.
But your inaugural season and you're in the freaking Cup Finals. So they wanted to go big. It's Vegas. Go big or go home. Yeah. They went big, and my goodness, did they go big. Whereas Seattle, they were building more of a roster for the longevity of a season. But you look now, the freaking Vegas is still kicking butt.
Yeah.
It's still. I'm salty about Vegas. I'm still let's get back to football.
My last thought on that is those are 2 arenas that I would really love to go see a game.
Yeah.
Vegas and out in Seattle for the Kraken. So maybe we can make that happen some point.
I got some really cool trivia here. Well, not really trivia, but I was outside of the arena in Las Vegas.
Okay.
I'm forgetting the name of it. Somebody will probably help me out. But they have a cool little just opened area. You're on the frickin' strip for crying out loud. So we were there, and I heard a live concert from the B-52s.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And he still He still sounded just exactly the frickin' same, but he looked about. He was older.
I know it's a different arena. It's not where the Vegas Knights play because we were corrected on that. But
yes,
I want to say again, Mountain
UNLV.
West Conference, the conference championship tournament was so fantastic. Loved watching it. That venue was awesome. The floor was awesome. The crowd was awesome. Maybe we go out there next year.
They're on it. T-Mobile Arena.
Okay, T-Mobile
Of course,
Arena.
right when I see it, I'm like, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
T-Mobile Arena. My brain doesn't work sometimes. We did 2 episodes before this, and my head's still spinning a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd love to go to Vegas. I'm always up for it.
Let's do it.
Give me the penny slots and give me some free alky. But anyway, actually, speaking of free alky, I went to Vegas. You were supposed to go.
Yes.
And P.W. Baker went, and the two of us went. You had a very personal stuff that went on. But so P.W. and I, PWB, we went out to Vegas. We had a heck of a time. Stayed at the Flamingo. I found out where all the cheap bars were. I played too much craps. It was wonderful.
So it's decided. We're going to do a Mountain West in the fall. We're going to do a Mountain West on location at a school for football game. And then next year for the Mountain West basketball
I was just going to say that.
Let's go to Vegas.
Let's do that, sucker.
Live. The
All
big
right.
mountain from Vegas.
Oh, gosh. Say, I'm blaming Dolph. He's the one that asked us if we're doing any of this.
Got us off.
He got us off.
Tangent.
Anyway, let's get into some Mountain West. We ready to go Mountain West? I'm going Utah State. We're going to go Utah State first. I'm going to hold some people in suspense for the CSU stuff. Yes, Mac Arena for the Mountain West tournament. That was your favorite. I did hit that wrong in that episode when we were talking about that. But that's a beautiful
Very impressive
place for a tournament. It's also great to see it sold out.
Yes.
Or at least what you can see on
crowd was
TV.
awesome.
The crowd was phenomenal. Utah State, a team that had a fantastic offensive season. Last year, I kept talking about how good their offense was, but the other side of the ball, the defensive side, just would struggle. They end up at 6-7 on the season, which is about where I had them. I actually had Utah State and Colorado State in my preseason picks episode or preview episode, being right there with each other. You know, I was like, is one of them going to break up? You know, kind of the upper side. If not, they're going to be right there around 500 or just sub 500. That's where Utah State ended up. They were the third highest scoring offense in the Mountain West behind UNLV and Boise. And we know what those two teams could do. They both made it to the championship game, for crying out loud. But Utah State is a fantastic offense. Their spring ball started on March 1st. Their spring game is April 20th. I have seen a lot of the Mountain West schools have April 20th as their spring game date. They actually added 30 players over the off season here, if you will. They got 12 transfers, 11 players from the junior colleges, and 7 that they signed from high school. Just a stacked quarterback room. I mean, from certainly from the Mountain West side of things. You're returning Lagasse, graduate senior, started 7 games last year, and then Hillstead. He was a freshman last year, looked fantastic in some of the games that he played. He'll be a sophomore. He started 4 games, but then they bring in, from Iowa, Spencer Petras to bolster that. He's a graduate senior.
Yep.
And they got Bryson Barnes from Utah. And I'm going, what the heck are they doing with all these quarterbacks in Utah State? But I'll tell you what, I think right now, Lagasse is likely going to be the starter. I think Spencer's going to push him, though. I mean, it could be a 1A and a 1B situation. I really appreciated watching Hillstead last year. I think he's the future of the Aggies. And it'll be good for him to, learn behind some of these graduate seniors, not have to be forced into that starting role too early, although he did handle it very well last year. Their receiver, there's 2 really stud receivers. One was Vaughn. He graduated. But I'll tell you what, Jalen Royals was amazing. I was big on Vaughn, but Royals was just as impressive last year, over 1,000 yards. Really fun to watch. He returns. And then their backfield returns. They've got Booth and Faison. They recruited a really good freshman, or he's going to be a freshman, a kid out of high school, Herschel Turner, who could actually maybe see some carries this fall too as a freshman. He's that much of a stud running back. So again, their offense it's good to go. They are good to go. They're going to score points. Well, let's talk about the defense. Well, I focused on some transfers here that they're going to try to bolster this up a little bit. Their linebacker, Sean Dolak, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's a junior from the University of Buffalo. He was a 3-star recruit. He started out with some really impressive numbers last year, but then was injured and took that medical red shirt last year because of his injury. But in 2022, he led the nation in solo tackles with 147. Exactly what they need in Utah State. Absolutely day one starter. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he will help with that defensive run, or that run defense. And that's the weakest part of their defense is the run defense.
It'd be nice to actually tackle some people this year.
They need to maybe tackle some people, yes. The next guy, a strong safety, a senior from New Mexico State. We talk about New Mexico State a lot around here. But Jordan Vincent, he's in his final year of eligibility. Again, another solid tackler. Imagine that, a tackler on defense. 149 tackles last season. And he's just as good as coming up. You talked about players coming up into the box, and he's just as good coming up into that box to help with that run defense as he is, dropping back into coverage. So another guy that I think steps right into a starting role, clearly going to step into a starting role, so they get a really solid linebacker and a really strong safety here through the transfer portal. They also get Marlon Dean on the edge. He's a sophomore. He was 4 stars. He's from a junior college, but a 4-star recruit. He comes to the Aggies and he was rated the second best junior college rusher in the country last year. So again, trying to help out that defensive side. I think he's another, again, good tackler that's going to see a starting gig coming in here on day one. So well done, at least trying to bolster that defense. They need a lot of help on it. The other person I just want to mention on offense, George Maley, I believe, an offensive guard. He's a sophomore from Baylor, another 4-star recruit. He actually saw 12 games last year with Baylor. Again, another guy that's going to compete day one. Utah State does well bringing in some transfers, and they needed it.
So Aloha Nate says, how bad was Utah State's defense last year? They gave up 24 points to Iowa, who we said was the next to last offense in the country when it came to, I think, points per game, and last when it came to total offense. So
yes, it's just a struggle. It was a struggle for them. There's really only one way to go.
Yeah,
that's up.
Yeah,
the sky's the limit. As
sky's the limit.
On the last episode. But yeah, we'll see what happens there in Utah. I'm having good thoughts with the Aggies here going into next year, though. We'll see what happens. So let's get to CSU. I see we got a Boise State fan on. Bill's on. Welcome, Bill. Good to have you. I know we've had you on here several times. Great to have you on. Let's talk some Rams. So I do want to shout out. They have a new initiative going for their NIL. The Green and Gold Guard is their official CSU collective. They have 2 anonymous donors that I saw that will match all the way up to $150K. So as every school, they're trying to build up these NIL collectives and so they can get some of these transfer players into some of these schools. So their practices began March 14th. Again, spring game, April 20th. You're going to hear me say that a lot with the Mountain West. The Rams have some new players. They've got some new coaches. And they're, from what I have seen and read in terms of some interviews with Norvell, taking a bit of a different approach this year. From what Coach said, they're now kind of over that initial 1-2 years to try and establish what they are. Now they can get, hey, you know who we are. Yep. Now we got to move forward. We got to make this program be in the upper echelon of the Mountain West. That's why they hired him and brought him in here. It's now time to start doing that.
Huge year for this coaching staff.
Yes. They won 5 games last year. That was the first time since 2017, but again, looking for much more than a 5-win season. They ended last season with the 9th scoring offense in the Mountain West. However, they had the top passing offense. I'll get to that here in a second. Their D was 7th in total D. And they're looking to get better on both sides of the ball. Let's talk about their sophomore quarterback. Just lit the world on fire last year. Fowler Nicolasi, he's back at quarterback. He gets a full spring as a starting quarterback just to get more accustomed to that offense. They run that air raid type of offense there in Colorado State. They want to go deep at least 5-6 times a game. He's got the arm to do it. So a really, really high ceiling, I think, for Fowler Nicolasi, just as a sophomore here. We'll see how it goes. With his stellar play last year as a freshman, who would have been their starter, the 4-star QB, Clay Millen, he transferred to Florida, so he's out of town. The reins are absolutely with Fowler Nicolasi here. The running game has also improved and they had their first scrimmage. I think it was last Saturday, if I saw that correctly. And both Fowler Nicolasi and linebacker Jock had positive things to say about this group. They said they saw a lot of youth, but they also last year saw a lot of youth, but they got a lot of experience. That youth got a lot of experience last year. They have solid backs with different strengths in their game. Jock also commented on the improvement of the O-line. And so, you're hearing some really positive things coming out of the Rams in terms of their running game. Two big losses at receiver. Obviously, Holker graduated. He received one of the NFL Combine invites. We did a standalone episode just on the players that got Combine invites. He was one of them. And Brown, the fourth, transferred to San Diego State. So they're losing two receivers there, but they still have a solid slate of receivers. Returning a 1,000-yarder here with Torrey Horton. He's fantastic. And they actually added a solid receiver in Donovan Ollie from Cincinnati. Before that, he had been with Washington State. Okay. So, yeah, they lost some guys, but they still got receivers to catch these balls that Fowler Nicolasi is going to be throwing. On defense, the Rams lose Kamara, a 2-year starting cornerback. Again, with his eyes on the draft, the second Ram that got an invite to the Combine here. So it was really cool to see for them. They also have a couple big portal losses here. Tackle Grady Kelly transferred to FSU, and quarterback TJ Crandall transferred to West Virginia. But they still return a lot of starters. A lot of starters are coming back, especially on the D side here. They're looking to refine things this spring. Again, as I said, they're kind of through that initial year or two of having a new coach, instilling what they are as a team and what he's expecting from them. They can focus purely on just honing in their game, refining their game. I see these two teams being close again this year. I'm not going to make any guesstimates as who's going to be better. We'll do preview episodes here in a couple more months. But I like a lot of what I saw from both of these teams. I think they've addressed some of their weaknesses. And, they both have good passing offenses. They both do. So it's always fun to watch a team when they got good passing offense.
We got a comment from Big Mama 69 saying that they really enjoyed the Colorado State offense last year.
Yeah.
Looked powerful. A lot of 30-plus yard passes every game, which I'm sure they want to see more of that again this year.
That's what they want. Air rated out. That's what they're trying to do there. And, you throw in a freshman there, and while he had a great season, he didn't have spring ball. He was coming in as a rookie, wasn't expected to be the starter. And then he gets thrown in and lit the world on fire. You kind of hope that he didn't blow his load too much, maybe, although I don't think that's the case. I think they got a heck of a quarterback there with that kid. So what are you thinking with the Mountain West? Any comments on those two teams?
So not necessarily on those two teams.
Okay.
I see them as basically just kind of continuing progress from last year. I know we had a Boise fan. To me, the two teams I'm really watching this year are Boise and Fresno State. I think they're going to be kind of a class above. I'm expecting them to be a class above everybody else. Mm-hmm. Colorado State, I think it's a huge year for this coach. He got a lot of attention last year, even nationally, especially that game against Colorado. Got a big rating, got a big number. So, if they can take a step forward,
yes.
This program could really, I think, gain some national attention. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. We did get a comment from Andrew Brown asking us about the ACC lawsuits.
Yeah.
And so if we have any other ACC fans, we prior to this episode, prior to coming on live, we just filmed an episode about the Florida, the case in Leon County in Florida. Take a look at that episode. What is it, tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Next,
We'll get that one out tomorrow.
We'll get that out tomorrow. Great episode. We did kind of a deep dive into that. And my expectation of what I've said all along is to have dueling lawsuits. It doesn't surprise me at all. We have a lawsuit moving forward in North Carolina, one moving forward in Florida. I think the ACC has a major advantage with their venue in North Carolina. The Florida State University has a major advantage going forward in the state of Florida. And both of them know that. They know, that's why they want those cases. So to me, they've each held serve in their own states. We'll see how it is going forward. I think the end game would probably lead up to possibly going to federal court, right. Because we have these, multiple public institutions in multiple different states. But I think probably before we get there, we've both said over and over again we think this gets to a settlement. I would say by summertime, before the season starts, I see a settlement happening, and maybe an announcement of where Florida State, maybe Clemson too, of where they're going and playing next.
Yeah, well, there's the third too. We have a suit lawsuit in South Carolina as well. So, and we actually also just did an episode on North Carolina.
Yeah.
We had a couple viewers asking about kind of what's going on with the battle of words in North Carolina between the Board of Governors and the Board of Trustees. So we did an episode that'll come out on Friday in terms of what's kind of going on and why is it going on and who are these two groups and who controls who and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, it's very interesting to follow, and we're going to keep following it because it seems like it's changing all the time. I'm sure you probably have seen the FSU, I think the day after the ruling came out, or maybe a few days after the ruling came out in North Carolina, they already obviously appealed to the North Carolina Supreme Court, and we fully expect whenever this whole Leon County gets finalized, there's probably going to be an appeal to that. So it's just, the crazy lawsuit game that it's played there. We also are trying to get special guest on the mountain or on the big mountain.
Yeah.
Very, very soon. I think probably some FSU fans might recognize who this is. He is an attorney, and we're going to try to work something out. Try to get him on here eventually. Back to the what are we going to do? We're trying to bring people on so that we can both be here and you can actually see them as well, and then maybe actually do that live. But as I said, JY is slow and steady wins the race, and we'll get to that. I don't know. I guess I'm just too freaking old school.
So Andrew Brown has a follow-up question, wants to know which ACC teams go where. Good timing on that question because we've been doing our series, our College Football 2030 series. Our next episode that should be hitting around May 1st is where you and I, we make our prediction of what the Power 2 conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to look like by the year 2030. Right. So I'll give you a sneak peek, my prediction. Florida, and I'm only going to give you one with what I think. I believe Florida State will be playing in the Big Ten. I think that they have an invite that is imminent as soon as they can get this, settled. And you'll just have to stay tuned for where I think the other teams are going to go.
We've talked about the rush to the courthouse. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be a rush to file your invite? The rush to the invite.
Maybe some teams already have invites.
Well, you don't know.
Yeah.
Unofficially, of course.
Unofficial.
Yes,
officially unofficial.
That's right. Not written down either. Yeah. Well, who knows? Sunshine laws, Steve. Did you know?
the state of Florida
has sunshine laws. Yeah. That's just an ongoing joke here on the mountain. We apologize. We're not making fun of Florida. It's just every episode that we do, we get a comment that talks about the Florida sunshine laws, and we just find it humorous.
Yeah.
So it's a joke on the big mountain at this point. So I also want to go back and Squeeze Money shouted out Ollie at WSU. Yes, he was awesome there, and he actually burnt the Rams two years ago when he played at Washington State in the game that they played. I don't know how many yards he had, but he smoked the Rams pretty good. So now he is a Ram.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
Yes, and I think he went to Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
In between, and that, it just maybe wasn't the best place for him of what they have going on their rebuild or whatever. That college football guy, he says ACC media days could end up being a Where's Waldo? I think that it's going to be very interesting and maybe a lot of tension. Maybe a circus. I have a feeling we might talk about that this summer when we get close to ACC days. Big Ten media days this year with the new programs once they've joined. I think that'll be interesting. And then I'm sure with the Mountain West is going to have a lot of ongoing questions with how's it going to work out with their scheduling with the Pac-2. Is there any forward movement or progress on talks long term? So it's going to be a really interesting summer.
Speaking of the Pac, we had a really cool commenter as well, and that college football guy gave us a really cool idea for a hypothetical, which we just did, about the Mountain West. But there was another one that asked a question about the Pac, and how would we rebuild the Pac, Steve? So we're going to do an episode. How would the Big Mountain rebuild the Pac? What teams, right? What teams would we take to rebuild the Pac? Realistically, I am not going to throw crazy things out there that are unrealistic. We're going to try to do a realistic hypothetical of a rebuilt Pac-12.
Are you saying
Pac whatever?
You're saying I can't put LSU and Ohio State in the pack?
You can, but
Okay.
but nobody's going to listen to that
Okay,
episode.
all right, okay.
So, but I want to get back to the ACC here real quick as well, and just say it's been really, really interesting to follow all of this kind of stuff. And the one that we're going to have come out tomorrow, which is the Leon County one, and Steve listened to pretty much the whole thing. And if you know what's going on there, it was scheduled for a 90-minute hearing, which we all knew it wasn't going to end up in 90 minutes. But I don't think anybody thought it was going to go to 5 o'clock and then have to be continued to April 22nd, because he only got to one motion, and that was the motion to stay. Well,
Judge Cooper obviously didn't think so, because he said he wanted to hear everything today and make a ruling today.
Right. So he did rule from the bench. We would assume he's going to rule from the bench on the 22nd as well, which is neat. I will say I was able to tune in at the very end, the last hour, because I think they came back from break around 3:30, their second or third break for the day. Yeah. And you said they were on break and coming back, and he was going to rule. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have time now to hear this. So I was able to hear the ending. And I will just say, this is not a knock on FSU or the FSU's judges or any in the state of Florida. But my goodness, that man was just rambling. It wasn't incoherent, but he was just trying to jumping all over the place. And I saw people on Twitter, FSU attorneys that follow this, saying the same thing. Like, what is he doing? Like, he's just jumping all over the place. Yeah. And at some points, it was kind of hard to follow. Okay, you still talking about the stay? Because sometimes he would then go to discovery, and then sometimes he would go to some other things. And again, not a knock on him, but it was a little interesting to listen to, especially when you compare that to how things were run in the North Carolina judge. And hey, different strokes for different folks. Yeah. It's his courtroom. He can do whatever the heck he wants to do. It was just very 180, like the whole hearing was a very 180.
Very major contrast in styles. Yeah. Definitely much more of a discussion than anything else. It was nice to get that ruling there, and I think he was trying to basically give both sides, hey, these are the cases that I'm looking at, so that if one of them wanted to do an appeal, but it was hard to follow there towards the end, for sure.
I like this. Bill says both hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
If anybody knows that college football guy, if you follow him on YouTube, he's got his own channel, so check him out.
Yeah.
But he drives truck, and he does all of his episodes from in his truck, or maybe, I don't know about all of them, but seems like the ones that I watch are always in his truck, which I think is actually kind of cool. He'll add in some weather stuff, and I know he talks about where the police are out and all that kind of stuff. It's just neat. We're just normal people, just having a good time, trying to give our opinions, and he's a good listen. He usually keeps us a little shorter than ours. I get long-winded sometime. He's good at keeping it to maybe 15 to 20 minutes, which is always a good thing, because JY rambles.
Yeah, he's good at the kind of succinct, kind of giving you some points. Sometimes we maybe get a little deeper dive than we need to, but that's what we enjoy doing.
We like to hear each other speak.
Yes.
And apparently you like to repeat what I say.
Yes.
I think I like to repeat what I say 3 or 4 times. I gave you the go-ahead to just whack me upside the head one of these times if I'm saying the same damn thing again.
And so again, for people who are maybe new to the show, the subject of our show was originally the Big Ten. I'm the Big Ten guy. JY is the Mountain West guy, but we've obviously expanded because there's so much that's been going on this last year that affect both the Big Ten and the Mountain West. So we've expanded into the Pac, which I've touched base in the Pac, but I think you're definitely more the expert with the Oregon State, Washington State. You followed them a little more closely because it makes sense they're going to be playing with the Mountain West teams. And for me, I'm focused on the Big Ten, but I'm also really looking at the ACC, Florida State, North Carolina, and because, the potential implications for the Big Ten. So, I think, we each have our own strengths in our own areas, and we just try and support each other. And the big thing is having a conversation. We're not trying to portray ourselves as experts. We're not lawyers. We are not experts. We're just two guys. We love college football. We love the Big Ten and the Mountain West, and we like talking about and having a discussion with each other and then also with our viewers. That's why we do these live episodes.
Yeah.
It's awesome, the interaction and the comments and everything.
And I will say we have some unbelievable commenters on our especially our FSU video. Well, on all videos.
Yeah.
But we have a few commenters that I believe have attorney or they have law degrees, backgrounds. and they give us some unbelievable comments on, and we actually brought one of them up on the episode for tomorrow, Terry. Just some fantastic comments. We love them. I mean, I'm learning stuff from them too. It's awesome. And then our pack people, they just seem so, and you mentioned this on the last update, down to earth.
Yes.
Just good. I don't know them from I could walk in, I wouldn't know them, but just seem like good people. And that's, it's fun when you have these good, nice, open conversations. And we need more of that around here these days, I think. So.
Yeah, me too. I agree. And a lot of the Pack and Mountain West fans, they just love kind of that West Coast football, or the western half college football, western half of the country that doesn't get enough coverage by the national media. I mean, let's be honest. So the knowledge, I mean, we have people chime in all the time. They know the Pack teams. They know the Mountain West teams. They love those teams. They love following them. They've been following them for years. So I've really enjoyed talking with them, and the knowledge that those viewers bring to the channel. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're at the hour mark. We like to keep these to about an hour. As Steve said, we are going to keep doing these once a week for as long as we can. May need to miss a couple because of vacations and life things and all that kind of stuff. But we're always here on Wednesdays, and we're going to try to, I think he's twisting my arm enough. We're going to try to do live pick episodes come fall. He'll do all the Big Ten. I'll do all the Mountain West. That's why we started this. We like to throw some money on our wonderful FanDuel site and just have some fun with it. And we're like, hey, we're going to throw out some picks and have fun too. So whether you're a bettor or not, doesn't really matter. Come on, you can razz us when we pick teams that you disagree with. So
absolutely,
that'll happen in August.
Let's make some money.
Okay. Hey, we thank you guys for watching this episode. Hope to see you back here. Thanks to everybody. We had some of our normal people on it. We had some new people on, some new names I haven't seen before. Make sure you subscribe if you like this content. I think most of our commenters are already subscribers. Always good to see them on here. Anything you want to say before we head out?
I was going to look, is FanDuel offering any odds in spring games?
Someday they might. Steve, here's the thing. When we get to be 10 million subscribers, FanDuel is going to offer a Big Mountain odds boost on a game.
That would be awesome.
It's a Big Mountain odds boost.
Yes, that would be so. And again, like you said, that's why we do this. Not necessarily for FanDuel, but just in general, betting, making picks on the games. We enjoy it. So we're going to talk about college football all year with expansion and all that. But what we really love, we can't wait for, is the college football season to get started. Yes. We can give our picks. I'm stoked. I'm excited. Spring is fun, and I'm excited about the spring games. I can't wait till the fall.
Well, that college football says he really appreciates our deep dives. We got a deep dive coming out tomorrow. So while you're driving all over the country, you can listen to us ramble about the Leon County case. I think it's probably a good 50-minute for tomorrow. So if you look forward to those, we got another one coming out.
Thanks for showing up. What it was, Davester. Thanks for showing up, even though you were late. That's okay.
All good.
Yeah.
We do it every Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. And with that, hey, we thank you guys. Really, really thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.